Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Good Morning Soul. I recently decided that all my TV reviews, instead of doing like season reviews on my main channel, like for instance, the current show I'm talking about, iZombie, has like more than I think it's on like season 5. And instead of doing 5 videos and then possibly a series finale when it's finally over, on top of however other many, instead of doing like a dozen videos, why don't I just make like little season reviews on Good Morning Soul and then a series review? And I think I'll do that for all my TV shows. That sounds like a way better idea. So I recently caught up with fucking iZombie. I'm on the season where, well, I don't want to give spoilers. All that matters right now is that we're reviewing the first season of iZombie, and I look like shit today, so I'm just gonna record it with the microphone. I don't know how I'm gonna do the other ones yet. But the first season, I gotta back up my mind to however many months ago when I started the show, take it back to the pilot. This show, the premise here, and I assume everyone, this is gonna be spoilery, so keep that in mind, but the premise here is very interesting. It's based off a comic, and despite that, it's a CW show, and I didn't know that until I was looking up information about it. I watched it on Netflix. And it's about a woman who is turned into a zombie, and rather than being a ravageous animal, she is a 2018 zombie, as I like to call them. A zombie with feelings and emotions, and she just needs brains to stay sane and not being like a monster if she gets unfed. And on top of this, she's able to basically look at her victims, I guess you could call them, her victims' past, and kind of maternalize that. So for instance, she could eat the brain of a basketball player and suddenly be good at basketball, and she'll have memories of whatever that person's life was. And she develops a job working in the morgue where, you know, there's obviously plenty of brains. And then there's this detective named Clive who basically starts working with her. She basically tells him that she is a psychic, and she can, that's the way she's able to tell what these people's, what's going on in their brains. Well, he just thinks that she's a psychic. And so he uses her psychic abilities to be a good detective, which is kind of shady, but, you know, it's played for laughs. This is a comedy. It is a comedy, crime, detective, slash, like, little bits of dark humor and horror and it's like so many things wrapped into one. It's a very episodic show on top of having a overarching story. It's like every episode is like half our story of the week, half, but let's return to what's actually going on. So in the first season, we're introduced to Liv, Clive, her best friend, whose name I'm forgetting, and Ravi, who is like the guy, her boss essentially, but they're also like the best friends ever. I think I had a whole video when I did a character dissection of Ravi. He's fucking awesome. He's one of my favorite characters he's my favorite character in the show, but he's just one of the best characters I've seen out of a show like this. So in the first season, she also has a boyfriend or fiance who she breaks up with because, you know, she turned into a zombie, and she can't tell him why they broke up. And then the whole season, he's just on this quest to expose this conspiracy theory he has. He's basically uncovering the truth about zombies, but he wants to fucking destroy them all. He wants to kill all the zombies, and this is after learning, like, he follows this breadcrumb trail that led to him, like his friend went missing, and then he was like, okay, why are these people missing? Okay, someone's fucking eating these kids or something. And during all of this, we also got Blaine. They pack a lot of fucking story into this. We also got Blaine, who's like this very shady behind-the-scenes guy. It's crazy to talk about these characters when I know their further plot developments. A lot of them kind of spin their wheels a little bit, like seeing seeing Blaine go from the many different arcs that he has to where he is now. It just kind of feels like he definitely just... They didn't plan the show to be as popular as it was and get as many seasons as it did. I don't think so in the slightest. But Blaine isn't... He's not like the main villain of this season. I would say the bad... Well, that's hard to say. Because he's like the main villain of the entire story. Whereas this very corrupt detective in the Bureau, who is also a zombie, as it turns out. Well, we get that a lot. We get a lot of characters that's like, oh, it turns out he's a zombie. And we get this very corrupt detective. And we got Blaine. And Blaine is like the evil zombie businessman. He owns this shop. It's all behind the scenes. He's got this brain operation going on. And during all this, we have Major, who is trying to uncover the truth of zombies. We got her friend Peyton, that is her name, played by the girl from Phil of the Future. I'm not gonna mention any of the other countless movies she's in. She's from Phil of the Future, goddammit. And we get an emphasis on Liv's family, which is dropped later on in the show a lot. But for now, we have her family and her brother, who at the end of the season makes a big splash, I guess. Basically, the whole purpose of their family is so that she gets divided from her family. Kind of another one of those, like, spin the wheels plot points that this show has. It's got a good amount of them, but when there's so many things going on, it's just like a trail of destruction, and whatever gets left behind gets left behind. Because for the most part, this show is episodic. Like, we had episodes in here where she developed hacking abilities by eating the brain of a hacker, like a radio host. I believe that was the season. We get a lot of very interesting characters that she's eating the brains of, and that turns into this whole other thing. A lot of the later episodes just kind of force that in. It's like, oh, let's very quickly like try to get some kind of character story going on with whose ever brain she's eating this week, and it's like super fast, very super cut. Whereas the earlier episodes really kind of focus on these characters that she's eating the brains of. For instance, I love these episodes where she's like eating the brains of like a stoner. She's eating the brains of... I'm trying not to use examples from later seasons, but there's some really funny examples. I know that there was one episode where she developed the brains of a cheerleader, and that was funny. But there's also the big plot thread that she has another romantic love interest who is a zombie, so that way they're actually able to, you know, do things, which there's this whole complex thing with zombies not being able to be with humans. If you're a zombie, you want to make your other person a zombie, or you want to turn human, because there are signs of a cure. But for right now, she gets this zombie lover, and then guess what? He gets shot in the head by Blaine. And that's kind of where Blaine makes, like, he'll never be forgotten of that. Like, there are signs in later seasons where it's like, could he be a good guy? But it's like, but he did commit murder. He's always gonna be a murderer. He's always gonna be a psychopath. But people love him. I think that's everything for season 1 on terms of a recap. This first season is setting up a lot of premise, and it's also trying to get a lot of story in there, a lot of fun ideas. I like shows like this that are packing so many ideas into however big a container they have. They don't care, they're trying to fill it with as much things as possible. I love that. I think there's so many characters and stories going on. It's hard to keep track of them all sometimes when you're just really on the show. Like as you're eating, like you just got home from work or something. But my girlfriend and I, we binged this show. We fucking loved it. And this first season, it's very innocent, but at the same time very simple and clean. It's a very fun show, and at this point in time, it's really interesting. It's like the little things, like whenever she's cooking a brain, that little editing style. The little things when they jump from back from commercial break, and it'll look like a comic book for a second. You know, kind of paying homage to this. Which, by the way, I read like the first, I think, issue of the comic book. It was nothing like the show, but we'll see. I'll eventually read it. Anyway, if I were to go off of my memory, I guess I'd give it like a B. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10 for the first season. It did feel like a, you know, kind of a CW show now that I'm remembering the first season. But it was still a very entertaining show. It wasn't too cheesy. It was just a fun show. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching as always. I'm going to review all of the seasons of this show, so be ready for more videos. And until then, with that, I leave you.